Welcome to Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast. I'm your host, Pete B, and I've got Sam Jesse here as always. Sam, we're coming to people early in the week. It is a Sunday. Recapping
Yeah,
the Stanford game, dude. How you doing?
it's good. I'm doing a lot better now, and it's middle of the day, so we have some nice natural light coming into this room. I don't have like the spotlight
Yeah,
lamp
you
on
look
me.
different. You look good, man. Natural
Yeah,
Light's doing you a service over there.
it's crazy
Uh,
what a wind can do to your skin complexion.
That's right. That's right. And I'm really douching it up over here. I've got the Sunday Fun Day hat because we are having fun on a Sunday. I do have a beer, and I'm gonna need Sam to give us a cheers and kick this thing off.
Well, my cheers is to getting back into the win column after two really gut wrenching losses. It just feels good. This was a trap game that a lot of people had circled, and the fellas did pretty much as good as you could possibly ask them to do in that situation. So cheers to getting back in the win column, back to 500.
Cheers, dude.
No beer for me today, at the moment, but
It is early on a Sunday. It's 1 p.m. There's an NFL game that already kicked off overseas, and there's one, and I guess we're getting started now in the 1 p.m. slate. What you got there?
we got
Oh,
a
it's Celsius.
Celsius.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the leg day, Sunday fun day leg day coming up here in a little bit. So kicking it off with the Celsius. Probably your beer is probably healthier than this though. So
It could be Celsius, but you playing. Yeah, this beer is delicious. It's a pumpkin beer. I'll talk about it in a little bit. I'm not going to wear this hat the whole time because this is
aw.
like my Sunday fun day with friends from college hat. That's always looks ridiculous. I'll wear the Southwest VA hat because we're still, oh, look at that hair. We're still honoring those who suffered some tragic losses down in the Southeast
Yeah.
with Hurricane Helene coming through. Make sure you're supporting all the causes that are going around. I keep sharing them to our feed on Instagram.
Speaking of the Southeast, they got the Ocean Course Kiowa Island.
Ooh, that's nice. That's a nice hat.
Yep, it's perfect orange and maroon colors. And don't ask what I shot there. Don't
I've
ask.
also got my tie-dye t-shirt on. We're doing a lot of clothes talk today, but like this is my California look, Sam, since we just got that win in Cali in the first
Yep.
conference game out there. And maybe later in the episode, we'll discuss some of the best California themed songs, something that you
Ooh,
were texting about earlier.
yes.
There was nobody at this game. And
Nope.
that was it was kind of sad because they were honoring Toby Gerhart, Stanford legend, and like there was very, very few people in the stands. You could hear "Let's Go Hokies" coming through on the television.
I think there might have been more Virginia Tech fans than Stanford fans at this game. Like
Yeah.
my sister and brother-in-law were at the game, and they said there were a ton of Hokies. I know a bunch who either live out west or traveled out there for the game. Really good Hokie contingent there.
Yeah, man. It was weird environment, right? It was quiet. It was kind of a
Mhm.
boring first half. They talked about it, and we're going to get into everything having to do with Stanford in just a minute. But dude, this was upset Saturday.
Yeah.
What a wild weekend of college football. We thought we had some wild weekends. Nothing compared to this. 5 of the AP top 11 went down. And the Vandy result, them beating Alabama, I know crazy things happen in college football, but that was legitimately shocking.
Yeah, I mean, that is, especially if you look at what the Georgia Alabama game looked like and
Mhm.
how dominant Alabama looked for parts of that. And then they go to Vanderbilt in just the ultimate letdown game. I mean, that's the most letdown game of letdown games.
It really was, and we were complimenting Kalen DeBoer and the way he acts on the sidelines and how we want Pride to act more like that and how he has this quarterback ability and he's turning Jalen Milrow into the but he is not Saban. He is
No.
not Saban, and he proved it on Saturday because Saban had given up 13 combined points to Vanderbilt in the 4 games he played against them, including 2 shutouts. And in the first quarter, Vandy had 13 points. Now, I know it is a different and improved Vanderbilt team, but it's still a deeply flawed Vanderbilt team. And boy, oh boy, nothing could have made me feel better about the Virginia Tech loss to Vanderbilt than that. Like if they went 8-4 this year, but didn't beat anybody good or whatever, I'd be like, okay, they weren't that bad of a team. I still feel bad about the loss. They beat number 1 Alabama, not just Bama, but Bama the week after they beat Georgia and number 1. So like
Yeah.
our coaches are probably breathing a sigh of relief.
And it was almost like a carbon copy of what happened in the Virginia Tech game. Like they got a weird tip interception. Pavia made the correct read on every single play.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ball bounced their way. Credit to Vanderbilt, like 100%. What they have done is insane. But their recipe for success is crazy. And what is also, I tweeted this out. You and I did a lot of prep for that Virginia Tech Vanderbilt game, and we listened to tons of podcasts, articles, insiders, people who were at practice every single day in the spring and the summer. And they all said, this team sucks. Like they were like, this is a bad football team. They can't move the ball on offense. There are tons of question marks on defense. They don't have a good quarterback. They don't have good playmakers. I'm wondering if they actually just figured this out the Saturday they played Virginia Tech.
I just think Pavia, he's not a practice guy. He is a gamer. And boy, did he turn himself into a legend. To a lot of people that follow New Mexico State, he was already kind of a legend. You know, he pisses on the opposing team's logo. He wins all these games, unprecedented success at New Mexico State. Now he is a national legend. And because to have Vandy beat Bama with the strength being the quarterback and only throwing 4 incompletions, like it was ridiculous. And he is so freaking good. I'm happy for him. You know, I kind of hated them after they beat us, but this is really cool. And they brought Barton Simmons, who is basically the GM of Vanderbilt football, onto the Cover 3 after the win. Like that was cool to hear him and celebrate the win. Like what a victory for them. And we're not going to, this isn't Vandy podcast, but it's related because we did lose to them in that same stadium among many other losses, because Tennessee lost, Mizzou lost, Michigan lost, USC lost, Louisville. I mean, it wasn't a big upset, but they got upset by SMU, and UNLV got taken down by the ACC, and Syracuse going out there in another crazy game on Friday night.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that was a 2007-esque.
Did you see the Bill Connolly tweet about it?
No, I did not.
He said in 2007, 9 top 10 teams lost in the first 6 weeks. This year, 8 top 10 teams have lost in the first 6 weeks.
Crazy.
We will discuss it all on College Football Monday tomorrow night at 8 p.m. live on the Sons of Saturday channel. We will be doing College Football Monday and getting into all these upsets. For now, Sam, let's go to the depth chart injury update. Jennings did play in the game. You might have not seen too much of him, but Allie Jennings was out there playing, so that was a good sign. I think all the normal starters were available because Braylon Moore gave it a go. But we did see a lot of backups in this game, something you pointed out to me during the broadcast. And PJ Prelude was the only notable injury that had to leave the game. But we saw second stringers, maybe even third stringers coming in as the game progressed.
Yeah, and I think it was really good to get that experience, whether it is by choice or by necessity. But as early as the third defensive drive, Tech had backups in. Like there were some third stringers in the game playing meaningful drives when Tech was only up a touchdown. So it shows that this team does have a little bit more depth than maybe we thought they did. I think a lot of people thought it was lip service depth after the first few weeks, but it does seem like they have playable depth at a lot of these positions, specifically defensively. And as for the wide receiver core, it's good that Allie Jennings got out there. I don't even think he had a target.
No, and there weren't a ton of passes.
No, and there never needed to be. So I don't think he's a guy that you're wanting to get hurt right before the bye anyways. But they did show good depth defensively, which I think is a good step for this program.
For sure. I already mentioned CFB Monday will be live tomorrow night. The Pick'em leaders, Fitted Jones, 39 and 21. He had not as good a percentage as he normally does, but that is still ridiculous, winning about 2/3 of the games. Sean D, 08, Patrick Bowers, and Tech Triumph are all at 35. So leader is 4 games ahead of the second place 3. And I am right behind with 34 wins at 34 and 26. I'm going to hunt you down, Fitted Jones. I'm coming for you. All right. So you try and keep it up. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the Sons of Saturday channel if you're watching us on YouTube. We really appreciate the likes, and you guys have been great about it. We've been getting a lot of likes and a lot of comments, and it's awesome. Game recap, Sam. Defense had played bend but don't break early on. Got
Mhm.
the missed field goal. We got the turnover. And then we scored right away on our first drive. Got it to 14-0 at the half. Both Mark, Rick, and Eddie commented on how boring the game was at halftime,
Yep.
because it
Yep.
was. And then it got to 21-0 before Stanford put together a drive and scored on that trick play. We added 10 points in the fourth quarter, and we got a nice boring win.
Yeah,
31-7.
I'll
I'll
take
take
it.
boring wins. Come on.
I love me some boring wins. It was another one of those games similar to how Vanderbilt played Virginia Tech. Stanford purposely was trying to milk the clock there a little bit, limit possessions. They were doing what they should have done. And Brent Pry said that at halftime, and he said that in the post-game interview on the field, like, hey, we know that this is what they want to do in this matchup. And so I think Tech responded well to that. Sometimes you can put a little bit too much pressure on your drives when the opposing team is doing that. But I thought Tech did really well. Scoring a touchdown in your first drive in a scenario like that is so
Yeah,
huge. And
that
that
set
was,
the tone for sure. Let
yep,
me ask you for your story of the game after we do the voicemails.
yep.
All right, good first half. Defense, bowed up when you need them to most, and the offense was in control the entire game. Second half, let's avoid turnovers and let's shorten this game. Go Hokies.
This is Andrew and Sarah. We just watched the Hokies stomp that Stanford ass.
Oh, baby, a win. You like putting W in the column?
Hey boys, we got the dub. Very convincing fashion. Felt like we controlled the game the whole time.
It was freaking awesome. So happy to see it. This is crazy. I just want to add to it. I hope my buddy Brian wants to add to it.
Go Hokies!
Go Hokies.
And now we are heading to Cal to go heckle some Miami fans. Fuck Miami. Let's go Hokies.
Off to get celebratory sushi to celebrate the boys just controlling everything they got to control. Let's go Hokies.
Hey, Pete. Hey, Sam. I am sitting here enjoying my bourbon and water after the Hokies have finished their second complete game in a row.
Now we just gotta get healthy in the bye, get ready for the rest of the schedule, play like we did then against Miami. I think we can do well.
This team is turning a corner, I believe. Stanford tried to slow the game down. We took advantage of the opportunities that we had. I think we only had 3 bad possessions in the entire game.
Hey, Pete, Sam, how you doing, guys? Hey, look, just a good all-around team win against an all-coast conference opponent.
Let's take this bye week, let's heal up, and let's move on, and I'll see everybody in Blacksburg at Boston College. Go Hokies.
Great to get a win, and great to have Diego Pavia fuck up somebody else's season. Go Hokies.
Those were great. Thank you for everyone that called in, and thank you for listening to my request for shorter voicemails. It made it a lot easier for me to cut them up and get them out quickly because we are doing this on Sunday. I loved Andrew and Sarah's call because they were doing the Stanford and then the Cal back to back, which is pretty cool. What a weekend for them. And I know a lot of Hokies went out. I know Clark was out there. My buddy Adam was at the game, who lives out in Palo Alto. So really fun stuff, and hope everyone that went enjoyed themselves. But dude, I think it's funny because this game was exactly what we've been wanting. And we talked about it in the last show, how last year when we played those poor teams down the stretch, we crushed them. Mm-hmm. And this was right out of that playbook. What was your story of the game?
My story of the game was that looked like the first game that we've seen this season where Virginia Tech looked better prepared than the other team. And that's saying something, because I think that's a really well-coached Stanford team. Troy Taylor is going to have that program back to winning ways. Like, he is. But that looked like a game where Tech knew what they wanted to do on offense. They knew what they needed to do on defense, and they executed it.
Yeah. My story was that it was a dominant win against a bad team, but it did come on the road. And so, like, if you can be that dominant, even against a bad team on the road, like, that's solid. They're a power conference team. They have more talent than us, according to the talent composite. That's not a full roster of scrubs. And we went out there and we handled our business. Let me talk about Jack and Coke before we get into a little bit more of the offensive and defensive details. Too Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by Jack and Coke, 2 legends, 1 can Jack and Coke. Billy put out a funny video before the game with his Jack and Coke ad. That was cool. You can find that on their page. But the number 1 cocktail in the world is now available in a can, and it tastes great. It's true. Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey mixed with Coca-Cola or Coke Zero is now available in a can at your local grocery and convenience stores. 2 Legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke, ready to drink. RTD. And when you're having your RTD Jack and Cokes, make sure to drink responsibly. On offense, Sam, this wasn't a crazy stat day, but they did what they needed to do, and they got 6 yards per play. The only game this season where we had more yards per play was against Vanderbilt, of all teams. And so with only 55 plays ran, we were efficient in what you were talking about, like not having all the possessions we normally get.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good mix of the run and pass as well. I mean, Kyron's not a guy who's going to throw the ball 35 times a game, but he was really efficient. And when I am able just to watch games at home, I do drive charts for every drive. And I think 4 or 5 times I had a bullet point for a tech drive that said, Kyron Jones looks really confident. Like he was never tentative. He made the throws he needed to throw. When he missed, I thought he missed in the spot that he needed to miss in order to avoid an interception. The deep ball to Felton, he was getting kind of crushed by Herzlich, who was like, you need to make that throw. It's like he's under pressure and he's throwing that ball high and outside to Felton so it can't get picked. Like that's kind of the perfect place to put that ball in that situation. So I thought a lot of it came from Kyron Jones being confident and Tech not trying to do too much. I don't think they didn't.
They played inside of themselves.
Yeah, they didn't really throw the ball deep very much.
Even on the long touchdown, that was a slant. It was basically a crossing pattern.
Yeah, it was a crossing pattern on 3rd down, I believe.
Yeah. And Felton made an amazing play on that ball.
Great play.
And that would be my thing with Drones in this game. He had an 88 QBR, his highest of the season, his 4th highest of his 17 starts at Virginia Tech. The first TD to Gosnell was a thing of beauty. Just a quick slant, pitch and catch. That's exactly what you want to see. Beautiful. But some throws were bad that got caught, like that Felton one. It was way behind him, and Felton made an amazing play and then added to it with the yak. Felton actually had a really good game because at another point, he caught a ball on 3rd down and was well short of the sticks and fought and almost got to the 1st down. We're seeing Quan kind of step up because he's been a little MIA this year. And so it was good to see him get a big play on the board. And then but on the other side of that coin for Drones, because he made some bad throws, including the one right before the half, which you got. We'll get into that. He knows. Okay. But there was a great throw to Lane. It was an NFL throw, like on the money to the outside sticks, and Lane dropped it. And so, there was some of that too. So Drones kind of had the whole gamut, but all in all, it was a very good performance from him.
Yeah, I think there are still some accuracy issues. However, they are becoming less and less as the weeks go on, and that's a really good sign. I also think his pocket presence has improved drastically this season. There were a few times where he got great protection, but a lot of times quarterbacks get happy feet and they still roll out of the pocket and cut the field in half. He didn't. He stayed in there. I think he had a couple of really nice, deep crossing patterns to Gosnell and Lane both, specifically in the first half, that I thought really opened up this offense for the team. So really nice job by Kyron.
Yeah. There was also 1 or 2 mesh issues. Did you notice that? There was a handoff where Kyron ripped it out of Tootin's hands at one point, near the goal line. And that you got to be very careful with that. So I think there were mistakes from him that he got away with, but which is the best kind of mistake, because you can see it on film and you can learn from it, but it didn't hurt you in the game. So overall, good game by him. Tootin, we had talked about how the rush defense for Stanford was solid, and we still thought with Tootin and focusing on the run, we would get yards, and we got yards. It wasn't a ton. We got 73 yards from Tootin. We used Jalen Lane on the reverse again, which was love that play. I don't know how many more times we can use it, but great blocking, great play. Coney got in there at the end, which was cool. And that's because Prelo and would have been in there had he not gotten hurt and had to leave the game. But again, with Malachi, there's just a little bit of a lack of juice there.
Yeah, he had one nice run, but
Yeah.
there does seem to be a significant drop off in the all-purpose back with going from Tootin to Thomas.
For sure.
But I think Tootin ran really hard. There weren't a lot of big runs to be had. I think in the first half, Stanford was playing very much, we'll allow them 4 or 5 yards, but we can't allow the big play. And then in the second half, they said, screw it. We're going to sell out on the run because of the game state. Tech was going to run the ball anyways. So it was a lot of 3 yards and a cloud of dust there in the second half. So I think the way Stanford played defense and the way that they switched it up made it so there were not going to be a ton of these 8-10 yard runs open there for Virginia Tech. So I think Tootin did a really good job, ball security especially.
He's a stud.
He's a stud. I mean,
the 4th and 1 for the touchdown.
I mean,
that was
monster
badass.
truck.
Yeah,
and I think they have full faith in him to go get that yard. Like there's never a question right there. And I think they have full faith in Kyron to get that yard as well. So they have a lot of options. I will say maybe you're giving him some unnecessary carries in spots. I thought,
no, they're all necessary. No.
At the end of the game, that was
no, yeah, I agree.
End of the first half and end of the second half, you got him hit probably 6 or 7 times, so he didn't need to get hit. But I will say, I did text this to the group. Like if you were to meld Kevin Jones and Sam Rogers together, that's kind of his running style. Like he has the burst, he can get outside, but he loves running over people.
The Kevin Jones comparison, I never thought about that. But stylistically, if you watch the way Kevin moved his body, it's dead on. Like it really is. But there's a little, Kevin was the total package. So it's hard to it's hard to say mesh him with Sam Rogers for more power because Kevin was big and he had power. But yeah, I can see that. That's a good one. Let's take a second to talk about my beer before we go to the defense, because this was a matchup, Sam, of 2 New Jersey running backs. Micah Ford, they said it many times, is from Toms River, New Jersey. Bayshal Tootin is from Paulsboro, New Jersey, which I pass every time on my way out of the state because it's just a little south of me. And New Jersey running backs are tough. This beer, not tough to drink. Let me tell you, Cape May, pick of the batch. It is their pumpkin beer, 6% alcohol, rich, spiced, and smooth is what they put on the can. It is smooth. Absolutely one of the smoothest pumpkin beers. Like you don't get that spice bite. You don't get that malt heaviness. It's easy to drink. It's pretty light in color. And it's not like a full amber. It's more of like a copper. I love this thing, man. And Cape May has good distribution. I know Clark picked up some Cape May for the Rutgers tailgate. He was trying to buy beers for each different team that we played based on where they're from. This brewery is one of the best in the state. Kane up north is really good. I love Double Nickel. I talked about them in one of our YouTube shorts, but Cape May Brewing, one of the tops in New Jersey. And this pick of the batch, I would highly recommend it if you're in this region. Excellent pumpkin beer for sure.
Nice.
Yeah. So defensively, what did you think about this defense's performance?
I think it was the best they've played against the option, probably under Chris Marv. I thought they did a really nice job of sticking to their assignments. I thought you had a lot of players have a good game, which was great. They were overly aggressive on the defensive line, which I liked. I think you kind of need to be like that against the option. Got a couple of offsides penalties, but I think you're okay with that because sometimes it works and you get a big negative play.
That one that took away Asen Stevens' sack, which it's funny because I never expected to see Asen Stevens really play many snaps outside of a blowout. Nope. And this was early in the game. This was not later. And he comes around the edge, gets a sack. Turns out one of our guys was offsides. Doesn't count. But I was like, that's pretty cool that he's in there getting reps this early in the game.
Yeah, I think it was a collective effort from the defense. Delane and Strong were locked down. They both had some really nice pass breakups. I thought a lot of younger players showed why they were recruited to Virginia Tech in the first place. And that was really exciting. I thought Quentin Reddish had some nice plays.
That stick by Quentin Reddish early in the game.
Unreal
Great hit. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, unreal hit. Caleb Spencer, I thought had a good game. He missed a sack. That was a really bad whiff, but he had a really good game.
Yeah, he had he's becoming a weapon off the edge, dude. He had 3 tackles for loss. He had a sack. He could have had another sack. I love that kid.
Yeah, and I thought it was another good game by Woodson as well. I thought he played well.
Great game by him too.
Really good game by him. Stanford was able to run the ball a bit. They did a really good job of running against the grain of Virginia Tech. Tech's defensive line is pretty aggressive with their slants, and Stanford did a good job of kind of running against the grain of that. It's something that Tech is going to have to look at because a couple of teams have done that to us this year. Vanderbilt did it a ton. Tech's going to have to figure that out, but I thought they did a really good job. Really no big plays from Stanford either.
Yeah, they only had 1 drive that was over 50 yards. It was our best defensive performance of the season, without a doubt.
And if you stop them on 4th and 9, it's a shutout.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I mean their touchdown came on a trick play.
Like that was very, very, very close to being overturned.
Yeah, it was close to being overturned. And I know they could have scored if they didn't fumble inside the 5, if they hit their field goal, whatever. But like this was this close to a shutout. It really was. Like that's how well the defense played, and they caused havoc. 12 tackles for loss. We said this is one of the worst teams at allowing tackles for loss. They allow so many. We got 12, well above the average they've been giving up because we have a good D-line and we have some good linebackers. 5 sacks, 5 different guys. You said this was a team effort, and it was because we spread around the wealth of the stat sheet: 2 forced fumbles, an interception, 4 pass breakups, 3 hurries, a couple other hurries where Lampson escaped. So, yeah, they gave up some yards early. They did, but they settled in, and there was only 1 bad drive. The thing with Spencer, besides the 3 tackles for loss, he had 5 solo tackles. Like getting 5 Sam Brumfield had 4 solo tackles in 4 weeks. And Brumfield had a good game.
I thought Brumfield had a good game as well.
Yes.
Yep.
But Spencer getting 5 in 1 game, I'm just trying to like emphasize how good that is. Brumfield had 7 tackles, and all of our top 4 leading tacklers were linebackers, which is what you want to see on the stat sheet.
Remember when Tech, like I think there was Brent Pry's first year, it was like exclusively safeties.
Jamari Connor,
Jamari Connor would have like 17 tackles a game. You're like, oh, that's not good.
No, you never want your DBs or even like sometimes your whip linebacker leading you in tackles. You want that middle linebacker to be leading you. And guess what? Brumfield did. He led us in tackles. So that's what you want to see. Overall, you mentioned Delane having that PBU he made at the end zone. That was nice.
That was perfectly timed. I thought he had a really nice game. They were locked down the whole game. The only completions that Stanford was really able to complete was when we were playing off coverage a bit. So it was a really good job by them. Brumfield was a QB spy a lot. We hadn't seen him in that role as much. I thought he did a nice job. Maybe why he didn't have as many tackles, but he was QB spying a lot, it looked like. So good job.
I mean, he led us in tackles though. So it was just, it was a great game. I'm telling you. I mean, like I've been wanting Brumfield to have a game like this. And
my one issue with the defense all game, Stanford was 3 of 3 on 4th down. They were 8 of 16 overall on 3rd and 4th down combined. We're still having to see that. Yeah, you don't want to see that. And it was 4th and long a couple times as well. So you don't really want to see that, especially against a quarterback that is not a good thrower of the football. He had pretty poor accuracy in some instances.
He's terrible. And we'll talk about that in our takeaways for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to the takeaways, I want to let you guys know that we're also brought to you by Roback. At this point, you guys should know the code, but for the people who might be tuning in for the first time, Roback is the performance activewear designed for those who crave activity. They have awesome Virginia Tech gear, premium Virginia Tech gear, and you can use code 2DVT to get 20% off your order from Roback. You've probably heard Roback ads on Part of My Take or some other popular podcast. Well, guess what? You can use our code, load up your cart, and get 20%. They have great women's stuff. The polo designs are endless, so many. So go there, load up your cart, 2DVT for 20% off your order. Roback Crave Activity. Sam, what were your takeaways from this game?
I kind of want to say like survive in advance for Virginia Tech football. Like this was the scary game when we talked in the beginning of the season. Like, gosh, after the Miami game, flying all the way out there, you're playing a team that you know is going to be well coached. There's not going to be a lot of people in the stands. And they just dominated from start to finish. And I think that was I understand the opponent is not very good, but it was one of the more complete performances we've had in a road game by Virginia Tech. Like I said, it was a lot like the Boston College matchup when we were previewing this, and the performance was a lot like the Boston College matchup. So really good road win. I think it's important to remember this is a program and a team that really could not get a lot of road wins. For the end of the Fuente era and the beginning of the Pry era, really struggled. Tech has played 4 road games already this year. 6 games in, 4 of them on the road. Ridiculous.
That's nuts, dude. I didn't think about that.
The Whit Babcock scheduling special, man. You just can't.
And before the season,
how do we make this as difficult as possible?
Oh God, Michigan played their first road game yesterday. 5 home games for Michigan. And their first road game is, and guess what, Sam? They lost.
Yeah.
Because playing on the road is hard.
It is hard.
That's why, like, even though this was a complete authoritative, dominant win, whatever you want to call it, yes, the quarterback sucks. And that team isn't very good. I know all that. But winning on the road in college football, especially after what we dealt with last week in Miami, that's hard. And before the season, I said, scary games, Vanderbilt, Stanford, Syracuse. And Vanderbilt proved to be scary. This one, not so much. Like we went out there and we handled our business. And I'm very proud of the way Pry got this team ready to play. Because whatever he said to them, telling them like, squash Miami, do not talk about it. Tell your parents we're not talking about it. It worked. Like the philosophy was correct. And they went out there and they dominated a bad team. I'm not going to pat us on the back too much with all that being said. Because we've got, I know the strength of schedule isn't tough. Like I said it on Twitter, in FPI, we have the 3rd easiest schedule in the conference remaining. But BC, GT, Duke has had a pretty good season. Clemson, UVA just beat BC. I mean, this is not walkovers, right? But it is favorable. So you're in that spot where we can take control of our destiny and potentially get in the conversation for the ACC title game. But you need to keep playing like this.
Yeah, I mean, everything left on the schedule is mediocrity and then Clemson.
It's like good mediocrity, though.
Yeah, it's bowl teams. Like
Syracuse looked really good against a ranked team on Friday night.
Syracuse also lost to Stanford at home.
They did, which is like that's college football in a nutshell.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think there's a team outside of Clemson left on this schedule that has a talent advantage over Virginia Tech. I think playing Boston College and Georgia Tech in Blacksburg is a huge, huge deal. I think having the bye week after Clemson is going to be really big for this team because they can be a little more fresh
this year
before playing Duke and UVA. I think you have to feel good if you're a Virginia Tech fan going into this bye week. I know it's been, like I said, the most difficult and heartbreaking month of my Virginia Tech fandom was this September. But you're 3-3, you're 1-1 in the conference, which is where most people thought they would be. I think you and I both thought they would be at 1-1.
I thought we would lose Miami. I did.
Yeah, yeah, and okay, like you're here, and there haven't been catastrophic injuries either. I know they're a bit beat up, but I think this team is in a really good spot heading into play a Boston College team that hasn't played really good football the last 2 weeks.
And the defense really impressed me in this game because that was a complete effort. Giving up 258 yards is hard to do in modern college football. And so the ACC is absolutely still in play. It's silly to talk about it just 2 games in. And we should be 2-0. And you know what? Miami should be freaking 0-2 because they got the benefit of every call again in Cal. We can't do this, but we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Save it.
But God damn. But SMU and Miami are going to have very good records in the ACC. They will.
Mhm.
So if we want to play in the championship game, we probably have to win out. There's an outside chance if you beat Clemson and you're 6-2 because you drop another game, you could win on a tiebreaker and get in. But you can't get in without beating Clemson, and you probably can't get in the ACC title game without being 7-1.
Yeah, with how SMU has looked to turn things around, and their remaining schedule is easier than Tech's.
Mhm.
They do have the easiest remaining schedule in the ACC.
Oh, and by the way, we've played the second toughest schedule of any ACC team, according to FPI.
Yeah, I think getting to Charlotte, you gotta really dig deep in the scenario manager to get Virginia Tech to Charlotte at this point. To be honest with you,
I don't think you have to go that deep if you go 7-1. Like if you go
7-1, Tech's in there if they go 7-1, but you got to go 7-1.
Right. That's not easy. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. It is possible.
Mathematically possible. Yes.
No, I'm not talking about mathematically. I'm talking about emotionally.
I mean, you can make the argument Tech has been outside of the Georgia game. Tech has played much tougher teams than Clemson has. I mean, App State is horrific. App State's terrible. NC State is terrible.
Dude, NC State,
Florida State's terrible.
Lost to Wake Forest. Wake, NC State, and Stanford are all like 83 to 85 in the FPI right now. And I'm using FPI because they updated it today, so I was able to look at it. But yeah, I mean, there's some bad teams in this conference, and Clemson's played at least one of them.
Clemson's played all of them. I mean, Clemson and UVA both have had really favorable, taken advantage of very favorable starts to the season in ACC play. It will get tougher for both of them.
Good for UVA. Good for UVA to be 4-1.
Yeah. Do you know what NC State's record is versus Wake Forest the last 10 years?
I know. Well, I thought in Raleigh they had a good record against Wake.
They are 5-5 against Wake Forest in the last 10 years.
And it was was the game in Raleigh this past weekend?
Mm-hmm.
They had been like undefeated, I think, in Raleigh in the last, and then Wake had won like every game in Winston-Salem. And so now, like, that's a bad loss.
Is there going to be 2 coach openings in the triangle?
It depends on how Doran finishes it out, but like we said last year, their record, I don't know how he got that record.
I have no idea, dude.
With the running back quitting on them and their quarterback quitting on them. And we even had a guy from NC State come on College Football Monday and chat with us from the Red White Pod. And like, he's like, I think Doran, I don't have a problem with those guys leaving, just a couple one-offs. But last year looked like a disaster, but they had a good record. This year's an abject disaster.
Yeah. I'm starting to wonder if Doran's a good coach, but they're going to have to do some real soul searching, and they're probably going to have to dismantle that staff and build it back up, because right now they just don't look good, and they're not recruiting at a high enough level to elevate themselves as a program.
Yeah, Robert Anae is getting canned for sure, which is crazy because just 2 years ago he was the great hire, and now he's 2 transfer quarterbacks in, and they both have sucked. And I feel bad speaking ill of the dead because God, Grayson McCall took a freaking shot. And I shouldn't have even joked about him being dead. He's fine, but like he took a freaking shot, and I hope that he's okay.
A really weird hit too. Like it wasn't even like a hit. It was just kind of 4 players all colliding at once.
It was like 3 guys hit him at one time, but he was moving.
Yeah,
like his arms and everything before they wheeled him off. But that was brutal looking.
To move it back to Virginia Tech a bit, though.
Yes, let's go back.
Another thing that I kept putting here for defense is, I think Fuga and Penne are the defensive tackle spots have played much better than we expected them to play coming into the season, particularly Wolford Penne. Like, he has played a lot more snaps. He only had 10 tackles last year. He's at 14 already this year. And at the defensive tackle spot, you're not going to always, ironically because of the name, you're not going to get a ton of tackles there all the time. He's played really well. So those defensive tackle spots, even with the loss of Kamari Copeland, I think Tech feels like they've gotten really good production.
And did you
out of
notice
those four
Malachi
guys.
Madison got in there?
Malachi Madison got in there and had a big play. That's awesome for him. He's kind of in a next man up scenario
They
right
liked
now.
him. When he got to Tech, they've liked him, but they've had tons of seniors in front of him this whole time.
They're going to lose. They're going to lose guys this offseason at that
James
position.
Jeanette got in there at the defensive end position. Not a name I expected to say too much this year, but we had some backups in there, and it's fun to get them some experience. And
then offensively, I thought my first bullet point I had on the Tech drive was Martin Scorsese couldn't script a better drive than what Tyler Bowen did right there.
Oh, wow. Some Bowen compliments.
I mean, it was in his bag. They were playing within themselves. They were running what worked. They ran a ton of motion. I am having issues getting some of my stats stuff loaded up today, so I don't know what's up with that. But they ran a ton of motion.
It's a Sunday, Sam. We're taking it easy.
Yeah, I mean, they looked really good. They ran within themselves. I really thought they did well there. They're still not getting great blocking from the tight end position. I think that is what's hurting them on not getting some of these explosive runs.
Yeah.
They're still struggling to get outside blocking from the tight end / H-back / slot position. Benji Gosnell specifically, really good wide receiver, kind of lost as an open field blocker.
And it's funny, like Benji he's not like so young. Like I know like he's old enough and like been in the program long enough and big enough to make blocks.
Yeah, he's goes to the Bucky Hodges school of playing tight end, I think. Like there's not
Which
a lot
is okay sometimes.
There's not a ton of seek and destroy out with Tech's tight ends. So that's something to note, that I think if it's a small thing, but if it gets better, the offense could take a pretty big step up.
I agree. And this is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see them focus on the run and get Tootin involved early. They've started to do that. And Kyron, you can see the confidence growing. You talked about the pocket presence. The accuracy has been improved. Yes, he made a couple dumb decisions, but learning moments. And I do think, like, as the team, if we can string a couple of wins together, next Thursday night against BC is going to be huge. If you can win that game, and we'll preview it next week, the confidence could start to really build up. Because at that point, you would have played Miami tough, this game tough, and BC tough, which I actually am predicting that we're going to come out and play a good game. Like, I would expect us to play hard on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think this is starting to set up really well for Virginia Tech. I know because of how the Miami game ended and because of how the non-conference went, like the playoff aspirations aren't really there anymore. However, if you're looking at a team, can they build off of 6 wins last year, 6-6 regular season? Can they get to 8 wins? You know, it's starting to set up for that really well for Virginia Tech. So really happy with that.
We didn't go DEF CON.
Did not go DEF CON. We did not. I mean, this team, there are other programs in this country where the team would have quit. Like 100%. We see it every year.
We say that about this team in games. Like in the Rutgers game, I thought they would have quit. They didn't quit. You know, in the Miami game, when they're down at our freaking 15-yard line, about to go up 21-7, we didn't quit. Yep. That is something that we need to give Pry credit for, because this team does not quit. And we're now in the stretch, like we saw last year. We're like, we got better in year 1 as the year went on. We got better in year 2 as the year went on. And we're there now. Now, I wish we could start the season better.
Just got to start it a little higher.
But we're here in our sweet spot now, Sam.
You said something nice about Brent Pry. The hand strikes and gives a rose. This is the striking part. Dude, figure out how the clock works. I'm sick of it. Figure it out. Take a knee. You're down and you're on 15-yard line. There's 20 seconds left. Take a knee and go to half. You get the ball coming out of halftime. I don't think
you're
he
up
knew
by
that.
2 scores.
I don't think he knew that he got the ball going out of halftime. And I don't think he understands that incomplete pass stops the clock. Like I am genuine. This sounds stupid. It sounds like I'm just ragging, but like they need to hire somebody or assign somebody to follow him around at end of half scenarios to tell him how the clock works.
Insider Pete, I think they're going to do that.
Because that's just egregious. Like, you have no shot at the end of that half to get all the way down there in 15 seconds. And I think
next year you will see a specialist.
Man,
that
it's just
is
like,
which you maybe not you might not need, but like I talked about this with a little with Billy. Like Andy Reid had clock management issues in Philadelphia, and they never went away. We're talking he was in Philly for 14 years. They never went away. Some coaches have a knack for the clock, other coaches do not, and the coaches that do not need to hire someone that does.
Yeah, I just think it is at this point, like, you're not an inexperienced coach when it comes to the clock. Like, you've been in control of calling timeouts for 2.5 years now.
Well, that's fair. But yeah, before that, he wasn't responsible for that because he wasn't the head man. But yes, I agree with you. It's been a couple years. I'm not giving him a pass. I'm just saying, if you know your weaknesses and you're a good leader, you find someone that can help you with your weaknesses. Yeah. And I hope that they end up doing that. Was there a special teams issue again in this game?
Oh yeah, there was. So weird. There was a couple weird kickoffs, like weird line drive kickoffs. I don't know what was up with that. But I did have on here. Let me go on my notes. There was another Stu Holt penalty. Yeah, we had the weird kickoff.
Okay.
Player's helmet flies off. I don't know who it was. And he just keeps playing. You can't do that. Like, if you're in the pile and your helmet comes off, you're okay. But if your helmet comes off, you can't actively keep playing.
Yeah.
That's a 15-yard penalty. That's a no-no. So yeah,
he's got to be gone.
We
don't make a habit of calling for people's jobs. I'm not calling for his job. I'm thinking that he will be gone. That's what I'm saying.
In a hypothetical scenario where you have a unexcusable special teams penalty and or gaff every single game, it just can't happen at this level of football, man.
No.
And it just can't happen.
No. All right, dude. I think that's going to do it for the pod. I mean, we're not doing BC tonight. We're going to do it next week. Later in the week, you're going to get a memory lane episode from us about the Thursday night history of Virginia Tech and some of our best games on Thursday night. Robert and Brett are going to be helping us out with that. You may see one or both of us on that episode. We'll be coming to you Monday night. And then there's a Hokie Hoops pod coming up this week. That's going to be on the Sons of Saturday channel because Ed and Mike are going to be bringing you Hokie Hoops. And you might see me on that one too, because we're going to change some things up this year regarding the coverage of basketball. And I cannot wait.
Yeah. And I'll tell people right now, I know some people wait until the new year to start following Tech basketball a little bit. I would start listening to these podcasts and reading these articles now because it is an almost entirely new roster. This is a really important transitional year for Virginia Tech basketball as a program. So I would start paying attention now because there are a lot of new faces in the Hawthorne Center.
And me and Sam talked about Toibu Lawal, Toby as they call him. This kid is a freak, and he's going to be very fun to watch.
I'm just kind of sad he's not at VCU anymore.
No, you can't be sad. He's on your other team.
Yeah, I know, but he's really fun.
Yeah, he's really fun.
He's a high motor, plays hard player. Fans are going to love him.
Yes, absolutely. So make sure you subscribe. Sons of Saturday YouTube channel, the Too Deep podcast channel, Sons of Saturday podcast channel, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you could give us a review, we appreciate it. But you'll be seeing our faces a few more times this week. So until next time, go Hokies.